We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall never surrender.
Hey guys, how's it going there? It's Brooksy here again. Welcome to tutorial number 2, and this time we're going to be covering landings, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you a little drill that I like to do that helps learning how to land planes. And if you want to see how to take off here, I'm not going to explain it, I'm just going to do it. Make sure you go ahead and check out our first tutorial, tutorial number 1, and that covers takeoff specifically. So I'm going to go ahead here and take off. Now basically what we're going to be doing here today is we're just going to be flying a circuit. That's all we're doing. For those of you who are familiar with that, is basically I'll throw up a picture right here and let you guys take a look at that. But it's basically a big square, and you just fly around and do a touch and go, which is where you touch your wheels down the runway and then you give it full power and then you're back up in the air. So here I am, just taking off the runway. Now I know that the AGL of the airport, the height above ground level, is 234 feet, and so I want to climb up. I want to be 1,000 feet above that. So I'm going to climb to 1,234 feet, and I'm going to level off and reduce power and make my approach. So we're on the climb out right now, which means that we want to maintain our heading with the runway, roughly around 98, 99. And I'm a little high now, so I'm going to go ahead and bring power back. Now the runways in Warthunder are super long. Like if you look down there, like I'm still above the runway. So I'm just gonna sit up here a little bit, and then when you're ready, once we've passed the airfield, now that we have, you turn left under the crosswind. And I'm descending here because I was a little high when I first took up, so you got to be constantly adjusting your altitude. And you want to be 90 degrees to the runway here, which is about right here. Right here. Okay, now the second thing is you're going to make a turn onto the downwind, and this is a left-hand circuit, by the way. All the turns are to the left. Super easy, not very complicated. Turning to the left, turning to the left, and here we are. Now the thing here is, like, you want to be pretty much a wingtip away, or 3/4 of a wingtip, depending on your altitude. The closer you are, the more the wingtip that you want under you, or like the more runway you want underneath the wingtip. And when you're on the downwind, you want to reduce your speed now. So I'm at 133. Notice here on the dashboard it says max gear and max flap 150. So don't deploy your flaps or your gear, at least in this plane. This is the Spit 5. Don't put your gear down before that speed. Each plane has their own speed. Make sure you find out and know what that is. A simple test flight, you can test it, see when they rip off. Don't ever exceed that speed. So flaps down. And here I'm listening to the flaps, making sure they're deploying. If you have damage, sometimes the flaps won't go down. I can hear them going down. Flaps are fully down. Go ahead and put the gear down. And again, we're listening. We're making sure that we get the green gear down, which we do. Everything looks good. We're going to go ahead and turn left onto our base leg, and this is where we start descending. Now my VSO, or my velocity for my landing in a for a stall in a landing configuration. Basically that's just fancy words for what your approach speed should be when you approach the runway. It's around 90. Warthunder likes the plane to be going a little bit faster when you're landing, just because it's more stable. By the way, VSO is calculated by doing 1.3 times the stall speed in landing configuration. So we're going to slow down, and we're going to want our approach to be around 90. Going a little fast, that's okay. Doesn't really matter too much, because when you flare at the end, you're just going to keep it from touching the runway. Okay, now line up with the runway, put your crosshair right where you want to touch down. I want to touch down just at this area where the gray turns a little bit lighter. And I actually won't because I'm going a little fast. But we can flare here. And just keep it off the runway as long as you can. And then full back pressure here once we have gone below our stall speed, which is 75 miles per hour. And we're going to do touch and go here, so we're going to want to increase speed again, keep it on the runway. Don't get distracted like I did right there. There you go. See, look at that. Even people who fly planes can make mistakes sometimes. And we're back up. So one more time, you want to keep your heading 100, full power, climb up to 1,234. Again, this is the climb out lag. Maintain best climb speed, which in each plane will be different. Flaps up, gear up. You could even put your flaps and gear up earlier then, but I delayed it just because I wanted to stress the importance of maintaining heading and airspeed. We can look in our rear view mirror up there. We still got the runway behind us. Try to stay on the center line. Good. Now we're a little high again, which is okay. So go ahead, level the nose, bring the speed back. And we're just past the airport now, so turn left onto the crosswind. Nine degrees to the runway, straighten out. Get some separation between the runway. And turn left onto the downwind. As you can see here, I'm leaving my trim what it was for takeoff because I want to be trimmed a little bit tail heavy. That's going to help me out when I flare on the runway, when I come in on the approach. And I'm a little high, so I'm going to cut my power down and descend. It's easy to get too high when you have your trim set a little bit too heavy, which I do here. And I'm just going to descend back down. Again, we're a wingtip away. Try to keep your descent in between 1 and 2 when you're descending. On at least on the approach. You don't want to come in too steep, otherwise you're just going to bang your prop up. And here we are, we're at circuit altitude now, level out. You'll know your level when you're, you can use the horizontal indicator right there, your horizontal speed indicator. Or sorry, that's the vertical speed indicator. To see, look how I'm still slowly descending, because I didn't have enough power. Use power to control pitch. Don't use the stick that much. We're getting ready to turn left onto the base leg. So we're climbing steadily now. I'm looking at my VS, my vertical speed indicator down there. We just want to keep it at 0. We want to maintain circuit altitude. I'm a little low. Go ahead and turn left onto the crosswind. And we should have put our landing gear and our gear and our flaps down there. On the downwind. Make sure you do that on the downwind, because if you do it on the base, it can be a little too late. But I'm really far away here because I'm exaggerating the circuit and I'm explaining everything that's going on. Okay, bring back the power. We're a little low, so I kept the power on a little longer. Because remember, when you reduce power, your plane's going to start to fall out of the air. But it doesn't really fall, it glides. The plane wants to fly. That's what the wings are for. Okay, here we are again. Again, I'm aiming for that light gray area when it just starts right there. And just make sure landing gear down, everything looks good. We're not coming in too steep. We're between 1 and 2 feet per second. Or I guess that might be meters. Or feet in hundreds. Power off over the runway. Bring your nose up. Hold it off the runway as long as possible. The plane will stall out over the runway. And there we are, touchdown. Full power once you've touched down all the way. Control the airplane. And we're back up in the air. Gear up. Flaps up. I'll do it one more time. Again, we're using the mirror up here to keep track of the runway, but you can also do it by looking behind you in the planes that don't have the mirror up there. We're climbing back up to 1,234. Maintain, get best climb speed. And here we are, 1,234, level the nose. Bring the power back. And again, we're trim tail heavy, so we're going to be pushing back a little bit. That's okay, you'd rather be too high than too low. Turn left onto the crosswind. Watch your airspeed when you do steep turns like this. If you increase the angle of attack so that one wing completely stalls, you'll go into a spin. But as long as you have sufficient airspeed, that shouldn't be the case. And I'm just going to go ahead and round off right onto the downwind here. I'm going to do this one a little close and tighter. And now that we're on the downwind, reduce speed. We're a little high again, so reduce speed. That's okay. It's not a huge deal if you're too high. It's better to be able to glide to the runway if you run into trouble. Like, say for example, you could be damaged and your engine could fail, and you can still execute an emergency landing from here, which is actually what I'm going to do this time. So, engine failure. Doesn't work anymore. The first thing you want to do is fly the plane. So, look around, maintain best glide speed. Don't put the flaps down right away. You want to keep them until you know you can make the runway. Put the gear down though, because you're going to need that. That's going to increase drag a little bit, but not too much. Maintain your best glide speed. And in real life, you'd be giving your mayday call right now. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Just had an engine failure on the left downwind for runway 10 this is. So our gear's out, but we're going to make it to the runway. Our prop is actually windmilling right now. It's the airflow coming past the propeller that's letting it spin like that. It's not on. I turned it off. And here we are. Line up with the runway. Coming in a little fast so we can do a bit of a side slip. That's cross-coordinate controls again. Flaps down. Could have put the flaps down a little earlier there because we knew we would have made the runway. And once you've touched down, full pressure on the stick back. And try to get off the runway so people behind you can land. And there we have it, guys. An emergency landing, a little bit of downhill practice there for you. So just give that a shot, do that drill, and you'll be landing like a pro in no time. Thanks, guys. Stay tuned.